Hey, welcome to Tabletop Skirmish Games. I'm Lee, and in this video we'll be taking a look at the Bladeborn fighter rules from the Tome of Champions 2021. In a previous video I did a full review of the Tome of Champions 2021 if you'd like to check that out, but in this video we're going to focus on the Bladeborn fighter section, and that takes us from page 120 to 153, and that section is going to contain all the rules needed to field Citadel miniatures from the Warhammer Underworlds game in Warcry, and these are known as Bladeborn fighters. This is a fantastic addition to the game, so let's get started looking at all the rules you need to play Bladeborn fighters. In the Tome of Champions 2021, you're going to get all the rules, fighter cards and ability cards for each warband from Warhammer Underworlds, and these fighters are unique allies that can be added to your Warcry warband, and in Warcry they're referred to as Bladeborn fighters. Each Bladeborn fighter will belong to a faction that already exists in Warcry, so they'll have the faction rune mark on their fighter card. For example, the fighters from Kagra's Ravagers will have the Slaves to Darkness faction rune mark, and so you know they belong to the Slaves to Darkness faction. And here you can see Grashrak's Despoilers has the Beasts of Chaos faction rune mark, so you know they belong to the Beasts of Chaos faction. In addition to their faction rune mark, each of the Bladeborn fighters will have a Bladeborn rune mark. In the Tome of Champions, these are broken down into the different Grand Alliances, and you can see here that every single warband from Underworlds has their own Bladeborn rune mark to accompany them. Each of the Bladeborn warbands will come with their own fighter cards and unique abilities that you can use. Just as you can see in this example, every model from the warband will have their own fighter card. Now there will be some exceptions where some of them share a fighter card, but most of the time they will all be different. As you can see here with the Godsworn Hunt, each warband from the Bladeborn series will have their own abilities as well. So as long as they get the rune marks that match up to those abilities, they can use those, but they can also use their faction abilities. So for example, the Godsworn Hunt can use the abilities from the Slaves to Darkness, as long as each of the fighter has the rune marks that match those shown on the left of each ability. They can also use universal abilities or the monster hunting abilities. Now let's talk about how we can include Bladeborn fighters in our warbands, and Bladeborn fighters can be included in your warband in the following ways, and the first are with open and match play. In open play and match play, when picking your warband for a battle, you can include any Bladeborn fighters that have the same faction rune mark as the one you have chosen for your warband, and you cannot include the same type of Bladeborn fighter more than once in your warband, and that makes sense because most of the time these are unique characters. You can pick a Bladeborn fighter with the leader rune mark to be your leader as normal. In narrative play, you can add Bladeborn fighters to your warband roster if they belong to the same faction as your warband. You cannot add the same type of Bladeborn fighter more than once to your warband roster, and you can pick a Bladeborn fighter with the leader rune mark to be your leader as normal. But in addition, during the aftermath sequence of narrative play, the following rules will apply. Rule number 1. Do not make injury rolls for Bladeborn fighters. Rule number 2. Do not make destiny rolls for Bladeborn fighters. Bladeborn fighters cannot gain destiny levels. And finally, rule number 3. Bladeborn fighters cannot bear artifacts of power, but they can be given command traits. In both open and match play, Bladeborn fighters with the leader rune mark can be included in your warband as an ally as normal. In narrative play, you can add them to your warband roster as normal, but they are still subject to the rules affecting the aftermath sequence that we just covered. If you include a Bladeborn fighter with the leader rune mark as an ally in your warband, any other fighters that share the same Bladeborn rune mark can also be included in your warband as allies. When you use this rule, those fighters that you include in your warband that don't have the leader rune mark do not count towards the total number of allies you can include in your warband, but they do cost points, just like any other fighter. So for example, in open and match play, you can include one ally in your warband, and if you chose Kagra the Usurper to be your ally, you could also include another fighter with the Kagra Ravenger's rune mark, and so you could include Dower Kragan. The final rule to cover for Bladeborn fighters is this optional house rule called Archetypes. The rules we've covered allow you to add the characters and personalities from the Warhammer Underworlds game into your Warcry game. And if you're playing in a gaming group against like-minded players, you may wish to use these fighter cards to represent archetypes for heroes and villains of your own creation instead of the specific characters. So for example, you could use the Tome fighter card from Elathane's Soul Raid to represent a veteran Namati thrall armed with a riptide harpoon. And if your opponents agree to this house rule, you can forego the extra rules for Bladeborn fighters, such as being limited to one on a roster and not being subject to injury rolls. And then instead, just treat them like any other fighter card in your faction. That covers all the new rules for the Bladeborn fighters now, so it's really simple. It's literally one page of rules and then a good 30 pages of all the different warbands with the fighter cards and abilities. And this has really been a great addition to the game, so I'm really excited to see the official Warcry cards for all these Underworlds characters. And I'll be making a few videos diving into some of these different warbands, in particular the Gloomspike Gits, really soon. If you'd like to check out the full review I did of the Tome of Champions 2021, then that's on the channel, ready to watch now. If you'd like to pick up your own copy of Tome of Champions 2021, then I'll put some links in the description down below so you can save a little bit of money. And here's the first one for Wayland Games, where it's £18.59 with a great discount, and also Element Games for £18.70. And if you do decide to purchase through those links, you also support the channel as I get a small commission from every sale. So thanks so much for that. If you decide to do it, I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope it helped you out to understand these Bladeborn fighter rules and exactly what's included in the Tome of Champions 2021. But I'd love to know what you think about this in the comments section below. Do you think this is a good addition to the game? And what's your favourite warband from Warhammer Underworlds? I'd love to know. But for now, thanks so much for watching. Please like if you like it, subscribe for more videos like this, and don't forget to hit that notification bell to join me next time on Tabletop Skirmish Games. I'd like to say a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters who make these daily videos possible, and if you're interested in joining the community, it'd be awesome to see you there, and I'll put a link for that in the description down below.